welcome to yet another ReShade video. This is going to be a slightly different one because the goal with this video is basically to make sure I never have to do another one ever again. Before we start, if you do need any additional help even after watching this video, or if there's anything you don't understand, please don't ask that in the comments because it's impossible to help you there. You will have to join the Star Stable Photography Center Discord and ask in our help chat there. I will have to ignore any comments under this video asking for help, so it's only a waste of time, to be honest, both of mine and yours. If you want this information in written format, then most of the information here is available already in the ReShade help forum and the Discord server as well. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get started. Before you even try installing ReShade, you need to make sure that you have a graphics card that supports OpenGL 4.3. It is honestly now easier than ever to check that. Just log in and click Settings in the SSO launcher, and then click on Minimum Requirements. If the graphics say you have a level 4.3 or higher, then you're good to go. This right here is a ReShade launcher. You download the launcher with the version you want to install to your game. So generally you should always start with the most recent available version and the one with full add-on support. This is the most recent available version as of recording. You need the full add-on version to use your depth effects like depth of field or the background blur, fogs, reflection, whatever, without any limitation. Don't worry about this warning that it gives. SSO does not ban you for the use of ReShade. It is not a competitive game where it could be used to cheat, and you can safely proceed. Don't worry about it, just click OK. If you don't have the full add-on version, your depth effects may be turning on and off, or just stay turned off entirely. If you are unsure on what version you currently have installed, you can look at the Add-ons tab. If there is this yellow warning text that you see here saying your effects have been disabled to avoid exploitation, or if there's a white text at the top saying this build of ReShade has limited add-on functionality, then all you need to do is just download the correct launcher with full add-on and start installing ReShade through that. You will be prompted to either uninstall, update just the version, or update both the version and your effects. This is also the way that you do uninstall ReShade or update as new versions come out, so it's good to know. The ReShade launchers may look a little bit different depending on which version you're downloading, but the principle is basically still the same. ReShade needs to be set up to the .exe or the executable that the game is running from. As I am recording this, it is currently the ssoclient.exe, and this is the default file path. You may have downloaded it to a custom location. No worries, you can just click browse in the ReShade launcher and navigate to that location instead of this default one. If you are unsure of where your SSO client is located, or if it doesn't seem like you can find it, or if the file path has changed since the making of this video by the time you're watching, then you can use the task manager to verify the location of the game. So here's how to do that. Just start the game, log in and click play. Open the task manager by clicking Ctrl-Shift-Escape. And then right-click Star Stable Online. Then you should see the option Open File Location. Click that, and your file explorer should now open with the game exe highlighted. So now you can just look at the file path in the Explore window and just browse to that location manually through the ReShade launcher. Just remember to close the game again first before trying to install ReShade, otherwise the installation will fail. After you found the SSO client location, you can just proceed with the installation following the instructions in the launcher. You're selecting the OpenGL rendering API, it's already selected for you. You don't actually need all of the effect packs, but if you're a beginner, I recommend just downloading all of them. If you do download all of them, then some effects may be red and fail to compile when you start up the game. No worries, it's usually just a compatibility error. You can either just ignore it or right-click the effect, then show the location, and then delete the effect that's highlighted. And then just click reload at the bottom of the overlay. If you are downloading version 6 or later, do not select any of the add-ons that the installer offers. SSO barely supports any of them, and they are honestly virtually useless for this game and the average demographic of it. They only risk causing crashes or issues or being in the way, so just click next, don't mark any, just click next. You should now have installed ReShade, and if everything is hooked up properly, you'll see the bar at the top when starting the game saying that ReShade has been installed. Now all you need to do is press the home button, or any equivalent keybind if you're on a 60% keyboard. Which exact keybind that is may differ, so your best bet is to Google your laptop and home button alternative. Now that you've learned the basics of installing, let's look at how to set up the program. Ever since ReShade version 5.0 came out, you were able to adjust your depth buffers. This needs to be done in SSO because the in-game anti-aliasing and the reflections, the one you can turn on in the settings, they block the depth map. This basically means that ReShade can only see the game as 2D, which means that any effects that need to read depth in a 3D environment, like your background blurs, your fogs, whatever, they won't work. Additionally, since the last Winter Village, the one of 23 to 24, there's also like a weird filter or something that also blocks the depth map outside of photo mode. So basically, if you don't set up ReShade correctly, then you're not going to have any background blur or whatever. The way we can see if ReShade reads the game in 2D or 3D is by enabling this effect called DisplayDepth. It's a super useful tool when you're troubleshooting, one we always ask for a picture with. And as you can see here, this effect kind of visualizes the depth map, or the lack of it. As you can see here, when the depth is working, you will see the so-called normals on the left, which is like the basic geometry of the game. On the right, you can see the depth, basically what the program registers as close to the screen and what it registers as far. We will come back to this specific information in a second. What we do have to do to set up our depth buffers is we look in the add-ons tab at the depth buffer options. At the moment, when none of the options are marked, we can see that display depth is completely flat, there is no depth, ReShade only sees the game as 2D. Now, at the moment, we know what setup to use with the current state of the game and the way the current versions of ReShade work, which is by selecting this option, copy depth buffers before clear operations. In the future, maybe it'll be different, or if SSO changes its files and parameters. If you need to troubleshoot, then try the options that are in here. These options basically kind of alter the way that ReShade scans the game, to put it very simply. Alright, we've chosen the correct option for the game. Now we can see display depth enabled and that the depth map is upside down. Now we'll need to look at the next set of tools for getting the effect set up correctly, the global preprocessor definitions. You'll find them in here, in the middle of the Home tab or the Effects tab. By default, you should have 4 codes in here. It's the word I can never pronounce, linearization? I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, I apologize. Which should be set to 1000. That basically tells ReShade how deep the 3D plane is. 1000 is essentially the horizon, or the end of the world, if you will. The upside down code is, well, if the depth map is upside down, which it is right now with our current depth buffer setup. The upside down code is like a switch. It's either on, which is when it's set to 1, or it's off when it's set to 0. Since it's currently set to 0, we just turn it on and set it to 1 to flip our effects right side up. The next code is the reverse code, which controls what is far and what is near in the depth map. This is the thing I mentioned earlier with the display depth effect. If the right side of the screen, the depth, is completely black, as shown here, it's probably because your depth map is reversed. This means that what was far is now right by your screen, which will basically put your effects all out of whack. If I disable display depth, you can see here what it looks like. Most often I see this happening because someone has accidentally turned this code on instead of the upside down one. So if your depth map is reversed, you can just turn it off, set it to 0 again. This last code is the logarithmic code, which you turn on or off if there are strange lines or this weird hyperpixelation thing in your depth map. Rarely does this need to be used in SSO, from what I see anyways. But if your depth does look this weird, you can just turn it on or off. If you were to accidentally delete these codes, don't worry about it. You can just click the plus sign and then retype them. Just make sure that they're spelled correctly, exactly as they're spelled here, otherwise it will not work. If you want a copy or paste message, you can just ask us in the help chat in the Discord. Now, if all is set up correctly, this is what your depth map should look like. If so, you can now disable display depth and go about using or making your presets. If any of the depth effects now don't work, despite display depth showing that you have depth, it will be due to the specific effects not being set up correctly. I have a video showing the setup guides for some common effects like ADOF and Stage Depth Plus. You can check that out if you need any further help with the effect setup. However, if you have set up everything correctly, but display depth still is flat and 2D, either in a solid black or half purple, half white, then you have another problem. Basically, To sum it up and to put it very simply, your graphics card isn't good enough to get this version of ReShade to kind of read the depth map properly. However, we now have another solution for you, don't worry. Thanks to the wonderful Jordan, who you may see hanging around in the SSPC server from time to time. She originally came over from the official ReShade Discord server. And thanks to her, we now have a custom modded ReShade version that works for lower end devices in Star Stable Online. This version is specifically set up with all the correct effects, the search paths, and so on. Like, you don't have to do pretty much anything to use this version. All you need to do is download it and put it in the correct spot. Most importantly, this will not disable effects due to network activity. The depth buffers are basically unlocked, just like a full add-on version of the new releases. Full add-on does not officially exist for versions below 5.0, so this is an incredibly helpful mod. You can now use ReShade on like any single device that can install ReShade, basically. Hello everybody, this is Jess, about 2 months into the future from recording this video initially. If you've been following ReShade or the SSPC server, you will know that ReShade kind of had some issues, let's say, at the beginning of April. This was like right after I recorded and almost finished editing this video, so I had to put it on ice for a little while. I was then also forced to record a tutorial for 4.4 specifically, and that's why I'm going to be just inserting that tutorial basically into this video. So it might feel a little bit out of place, and I might be repeating stuff that I've already said in this video or that I'm going to say in this video, but the information is still correct, and the stuff that I'm saying still stands, basically. So just a quick heads up, and let's get on with the video. So the first thing we do is we scroll down to the exe that is found here. And then don't worry about this. We guarantee that if you download this modded exe from our server, there is no malicious content in this file, no virus, no malware, nothing bad. It is only the ReShade installation. We ask that you keep it this way. Don't share this amongst yourselves, just to prevent anyone from putting anything bad in this exe. So please download this from the server. All you need to do is continue to download, and it will open in a browser. I suggest you put this on your desktop. It may tell you that this is harmful. It may warn you for having a harmful file type. You should then have the option to click keep anyways or download anyways or something similar. If you do that and it still flags it as a virus and prevents you from downloading it, here's what you do instead. Open your computer settings, go into privacy and security, click Windows Security, and then click Open Windows Security. In the Windows Security window, you will click Virus and Threat Protection. Then we look here under Virus and Threat Protection Settings. We click Manage Settings. We scroll down to the bottom. We find the section called Exclusions. We then select Add or Remove Exclusions. Click the plus here to add an exclusion. We select the file type, and then we write .exe. Add. And now you should be able to download the modded exe from the Discord server. After you've downloaded the modded exe, please click the arrow and then click Remove. It's not a good exclusion to have. EXEs can be very, very harmful to your device, so please be careful. Keep your computer and your information safe. Delete the exclusion. Here is now the mod file that we just downloaded. All we need to do now is double click to run it. You'll probably get this warning. Don't worry about it, just click more info and then run anyways. The exe should now show this window. And what we're doing is basically we're just extracting all of the files that we need to install in ReShade. The default extraction location is to the same folder or the same location as the modded exe that we just downloaded. So just click extract. And we should now have this folder. Open this folder and you will see 4 files. This is basically ReShade and all that it needs to function. So all you need to do now is just copy these, either by clicking Ctrl+C or just clicking the copy button here at the top. You then go into the client folder, which is the location of the game, which is the ssoclient here. All we need to do now is either click Ctrl+V to paste it or just click the paste button up here. And that's it. Now we have installed ReShade. You don't have to tweak any depth buffers, nothing like that. All you need to do is put the files in the correct spot. Other than this, there is nothing else you need to do. Any additional setup will now just be for the specific effects. Please note, some effects might not be available in this version. This is an older build. Some effects might be too updated that can't be used in this program. Don't worry about it. You can just delete it if you want. Some effects might not have all of the features that they have in the newer versions, Basically, this version is a compromise, but it's one that actually works because you can actually use it in photo mode, which is awesome. One thing that does differ a little bit in this version compared to the newer versions is the way you select your presets. The default location here, as you can see, the default preset here is in the client folder, but it doesn't actually say the file path, which is a little bit frustrating. But that's the default location of where this will open. 4.4 is a little bit finicky sometimes with saving presets. It doesn't really have permission to do it, if that makes sense. So what I suggest you do, you click these two dots here to go backwards, basically taking steps backwards in the file explorer. So here is as far as I can go. And this is my main drive, basically. This is the C drive. You can see I have the program files here. I can backtrack again and go back into the client folder where I just was. But I will go back out as far as I can. And here I have put all of my ReShade presets. You just make a folder on your main drive and then you open that. And here I have all of my presets instead. Now, here's the issue. Presets in ReShade are not transferable downwards. This means that if you made a preset in version, let's say 6.0 or 5.9, which are like the default or the most commonly used effects now, they will open blank. You can see here I have a preset from the lovely 𝘾𝙤𝙤 𝖲ते𝖺. I click it and it opens blank, right? The thing is, the settings are actually still there. The problem is you have to manually enable them. So what I suggest you do is you ask the preset creator for a list of the active effects from that preset, and then you manually go through and enable them all. When you do that, you may also have to reorder them a little bit. As you can see here, I have 3 of them now, but they were in the wrong order. I have to move the DOF below the canvas fog, or else I will have all of these weird lines you see here. So you might have to reorder them. The best thing is if you can get a screenshot from a higher version where the preset works properly from the preset creator, and then just arrange all of the effects correctly in your effect list here. The other option is, of course, to either download some presets made specifically for 4.4, which we have quite a few of in the server already, and I am sure that there are going to be plenty more now. You can also, of course, make your own presets. Now, another thing that I will also warn you about a little bit, if you tab in and out of SSO with this version, you might risk your effects freezing, like you can see in this video here sent in from somebody in the help chat. The effects basically aren't showing what's actually happening in the game anymore. They're not following the live game. 2 things you can do about this is either, if it happens, you go into settings and graphics, and you will toggle full screen on and then off to basically force reload the game. You cannot just click reload and the overlay, it doesn't work. What you can do though is you can open the OpenGL tab and you should be able to click and then unclick this, and it should force the depth buffer to work again. Since we started talking about presets, let's do a bit of an explanation on how they work if you're unsure. What is a preset? Well, if you think of the effects like ingredients, then the presets are like recipes. When you select a preset to use, you're telling ReShade which effects or which ingredients to use, and together they will produce a certain look, or a dish if you will, in the game. When you are using ReShade, you are always using a preset. You will see the name of the preset you're using at the top of the ReShade menu. If you click the name, you will see the file path where the preset you're using is located. By default, the program will create a preset called something like default preset or ReShade preset. This default preset will be put in the location of the game exe where ReShade is installed, which in our case is the client folder where ssoclient is located. If you download presets from other people, from like Ko-Fi or Discord or wherever it may be, you simply put the preset file in the client folder. This is the default way of doing it. However, what this does is kind of put your presets at risk of being deleted if the game were to be uninstalled or if the files move somewhere else, which did happen at the end of 2022. Since that deletes the client folder, it will delete everything in it, which includes your presets. If you want to keep your presets more protected, I suggest you create a separate folder somewhere else on your computer in a location that does not run the risk of being deleted, and put all of your presets there. You then just simply change the file path you're looking in the ReShade overlay. And if you create a new preset by clicking the plus sign, the new preset file will be created in the selected folder next to the preset that you were just using, basically. If you want to share your presets with other people, you simply share the preset file, the .ini file, with others. We will happily also share your presets in our server. All you need to do is send in a thumbnail in the resource submissions chat, and we will create your very own preset thread for people to find and download your presets. ReShade may seem a little bit overwhelming and tricky at times, and especially if you're not that experienced with computers and working with numbers and setup and all that. What I can say is that I really encourage you to thoroughly try out the program and really just take your time exploring and trying things. There's no right or wrong way to do it, just some ways that may be easier than others. Most effects have a fairly high level of ability to tweak settings, and if you ever do something that maybe looks weird or that you don't like, you can always just right-click a value and then reset it to its default to start over. You can also fully reset the effect settings to default if you ever feel like you've gone too far. Some effects will also have a section called preprocessor definitions that will, in some cases, let you change the difficulty of the options you have, or with the effects, such as StageDepth Plus that uses textures. You can usually customize what file the effect is looking for, allowing you to select exactly which PNG and the textures folders you want to use, and so on and so forth. Additionally, if you hover your cursor over a lot of the effects, you may also get an additional explanation as to what a certain value does. Take your time, read the information available, and honestly, you'll be all good. I also really encourage you to look in the settings tab of ReShade if you want to make some small quality of life improvements, such as setting a toggle key for your effects. This one is honestly like a must-have, especially when you're using a lot of 3D effects, as they will cover the user interface most of the time. You can also adjust the style of your ReShade overlay with colors. Another thing I recommend is also selecting to group effects in tabs instead of a tree. Instead of getting the long list of effects that you have enabled in the home tab in the bottom half where you change the settings, you instead have these handy little tabs that you can quickly switch between. Lastly, another thing I really like to always have turned on is the FPS counter and the clock. They help me keep track of my performance and the time without having to look outside of the game, which I really find super convenient, so I strongly recommend those. But this is all personal preference. I hope that has covered most of the basic stuff about ReShade. As I mentioned, I have an additional guide on 5 specific effects that I can recommend you check out if you are interested in learning a little bit about them. And if you have any further questions, or if there's something you don't understand, then please leave a message in the help chat in the Star Stable Photography Center on Discord. There I can really help explain or troubleshoot if you need to. I cannot do that in the YouTube comments, like I said, so trying to ask for help there will be a waste of time. I apologize. It's just the way that YouTube comments work. That being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, I hope you learned something, and have fun with taking photos in the game. If you're looking to start playing the game now that you've watched this video because you want to take pretty pictures, or if you want to make some additional alternative accounts, then please do use the link in my description because it really helps me out and it supports me in my content creation journey. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!